Cracking the Cash Flow Code. And my guest today is John Louizes. And John has a great taffy company. He sent me some, actually, it was really, really delicious. It's world's most famous taffy.com. But we're really not going to talk about taffy today. What we are going to talk about is the fact John is a third generation business owner. And having gone through some of that myself, there are some trials and tribulations I'm sure that everybody in the construction world will be more than happy to hear about. So let's bring John on and we'll start the conversation. Hey, John, how are you today?
Josh, thank you very much for having me on. It's great to be here.
It's always fun having people like you on. I get a lot of consultants on, I get a lot of people who are professionals on. Uh, I love the idea when we actually get an operating business person on, because the truth is we see the world differently than the folks who like to give advice.
That,
And
absolutely correct.
so you're a third generation business owner.
Correct. My great uncle Thomas started the business in 1948. My dad Zeno took it over in 1963, and then I took it over in 2003. I like to tell people we're the other family-owned business that started in Daytona Beach in 1948. The other one being NASCAR, of course. The jury's still out as to which is more successful, but one day we'll maybe figure it out. So I've been very lucky, third generation. I love what I do. That's a hard thing to find too, because third generation, they're usually not, for the most part. I believe first generation starts it, second generation are the entitled ones, third generations lose it or sell it, and fourth generation, I don't know what the saying is on that yet. So
There is no saying, but the saying is shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in three generations. And you can go to any culture and you'll hear a version of that. It's a different thing in China, but it's still three generations and they blow it.
Yeah.
Getting to a third generation, my experience is second generations get beat up by their parents, the founders. And third generations, if they actually do it, tend to be more even keeled and don't feel like they have to prove to the world they're the smartest people on the block. Was that true for you?
I know I'm not. So if I'm the smartest person in a room, I'm always in the wrong room. So it's funny that you mentioned that, because I feel like, even though I'm third generation, I still feel it's like my dad's company. Like, it was his for 40 years. He's the namesake. So I definitely got those beatings along the line, like everybody else did. So as a father and son, we never argued, because I was pretty much my dad passed away 3 years ago, but my mom would be the first to tell you she could have more kids. She'd want them all to be like me. But my dad and I only argued about the business, and we didn't argue why he owned it. We argued why I owned it. And that's like, that was always like, a point of discontention, or whatever that word is, that he would always try to instill himself or bring himself into the business when it was not even needed. And, no one was afraid of me ever. No one's afraid of me now, but they're always afraid of Zeno. So they'd always listen to what he said over what I had to say.
Well, the truth is, and this is my experience with this, is that, and when I do some what I call rising generation work, which is get, the kids in the family ready to take over the business. And I always tell the parents, I say, there's a pretty good chance that your child is not going to run this business the way you did. And there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be pretty annoyed about it. I'm going to suggest to you that maybe you should look at the results and not the process.
That is a beautiful saying. And, I always laugh when my oldest, Zeno, named after my dad, he's 13, going to be 14 soon. I laugh because when I was around 24 is when I believe I took over, right around then. And it's just so funny to me to think in 10 years, he's going to be telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. And, I just need to, trust, as you said, the results. That's a beautiful thing. I've never heard that before, because even though our numbers were exponentially higher than when my father owned the business, he still for the most part, would jokingly tell me, like, I still don't know what I'm doing. And, like, and that was part of the driving force behind the success, because when I took over, we were only making 9,000 pounds of taffy a year, plus some other stuff. But the year I took over, we jumped to 50,000 bucks, started making our own ice cream. Now we're up to 500,000 pounds of taffy a year, plus about 1,300 tubs of ice cream a week. Like the tubs you see in ice cream shops that people scoop out of. So definitely been a fun growth process. And I know he was very proud too.
That's incredible growth. So how many employees do you guys have now?
Between the 7 stores, we have 4 Zeno's locations, and then we have 3 Strawhans locations. Strawhans is a store we just acquired in the last 6 months. They're very well known in the Tampa Bay area. They have 3 locations, but we took over those stores, and between all 7 shops, we're right around 50 employees right now.
And do you do mail orders? Is it only stuff you sell through the shop?
So we have a website, worldsmostfamoustaffy.com, where we ship out about 10 to 15 orders a day. And, our 7 retail locations are there. But for the most part, I'm more of the production guy. I'm mostly in the manufacturing facility located in South Daytona. And that's where we make all the products for all the stores. And we ship out to our retail locations, as well as to other national distributors and wholesale outlets that then resell our candy to other stores as well. Our candy's everywhere. I don't even know where it is, because I don't know who the final users are. But that was just like, to me, to this day, that's still one of the weirdest things ever, to think that this little mom and pop, when I was 18, I remember telling my dad, we should look into wholesale. And he's like, who's going to run it? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe me. And he's like, yeah, right. Because I am the least mechanic. It's so funny that I'm on a podcast such as yours, because I'm the least mechanically, structurally inclined person you've ever met in your life. I can't screw a nail into the wall. I don't know how to do anything when it comes to that matter. I know what things are supposed to do, and I know when they're wrong, why it's wrong, but I can't fix it. And I was lucky to be born in a day and era where you have the internet and you can find the experts that built these machines, or have do maintenance on these machines that are from overseas, and all this other stuff that I'd have no way to fix. Whereas, my dad was a one-man show. He had to learn all that stuff himself. And because of when I was born, and even with sales, I don't really sell that much as well. People find me online, and they want our candy in our stores. So I'm just lucky. I'm born in a time where I don't have to aggressively go seek out business, because if you put enough content out there on social media and just proud of what you do, people will come to you. And when it came to all the hardships of dealing with these machines and things in any other era, I would have been stuck with these broken machines. Now I have people to come fix them, or have taught us all to come deal with them and fix them.
Yeah, I doubt that you're any worse than I was. I owned a vending company, and what it would take our mechanics 5 minutes to do would take me 3.5 hours.
Yep.
Literally 3.5 hours. And I learned really quickly that my unique ability was not being a mechanic.
Yeah, my crew. So everyone in the factory, I pride myself, and anyone that I bring in is just amazing on what they do. And I'm not going to sit there and tell them what to do. I just, exactly what you spoke to earlier, and show me the results. You show me the results. You do. I trust you to do what it is you need to do. But my plant manager Tim wants to do a video where he gets me trying to guess the names of different tools, like, just like everyday common tools. And I've called a crescent wrench the moon thingy before, an A-frame. I've called it the sawhorse, they're not, I've called a yardstick a 3-foot ruler before. So it's just trying to find what I'm good at. And I know I'm not good at that kind of stuff.
So that kind of brings up an interesting point, which is delegation. Now, what I'd like to talk about to start off with, and then we'll go into standard delegation, but uh, at some point, your father has started delegating responsibility to you. Did he do that very well?
He liked to delegate, but he micromanaged way too much. There was we used to buy our corn syrup in a 60-pound bucket, and corn syrup back then would last us forever. And but 60 pounds, it's annoying to lift up and move because our storage was so limited back in the day. Our kitchen was only 200 square feet, and I would tell him, you know what, let me take care of all the ordering. If we run, my dad was a big inventory guy. He believed that inventory is okay. If cash flow is not an issue, just bulk up with inventory. It's just money just sitting there ready to go. So you never run out of everything. You become very efficient. And I told him, why don't you let me handle the ordering? And if I run out of anything, you can let me have it. Like, you can just give me the business, because it didn't cost us any more to order one at a time. We could get it the next day. It was one of those things he would order 10 of. And I'm like, you're ordering 10 of these buckets that I've got to find room for, that, that take up space in the small kitchen. And he goes, okay, you order. I come in the next week, there's 10 buckets stacked up to the kitchen that we just got in delivery. So I had to tell him. And this is like the one thing that I was actually always very proud of, because I go, look, I'm done. I go, I love you. I can't work with you anymore. I go, I'm going to move to Atlanta. I just graduated University of Florida. I was going to go try out my degree. Got a job working for Apple Computers up there. And then I eventually got a job as a pharmaceutical sales rep up in Chicago. And I think Atlanta, he felt I was still close enough to where if he wanted to bring me back, I would come. But I think he felt if I moved to Chicago, that was it. I was never coming back. And, the legacy's pretty much over then. And he said, I'll rent you out the store. And I always wanted to be a candy man. So I was like, yep, no problem. So I came back, thought I was going to be the big honcho in charge and take care of everything. And he still would tell everybody what to do when I wasn't there, because my parents have adjacent gift shops between the candy shops. So he was down there every day. So it wasn't like, he had to make an effort to come down there to be there. He was just always there. But it was like having another guard dog on watch all the time, because everyone, did their best to always make sure, they lived up to his expectations. So just micromanaged, undermined a little bit. But I had to have loved what I do, because I stuck with it. And if no matter how miserable he wanted to make me, I think I would have been stuck in it regardless, because I loved it so much. That conference, going back to what we talked about before, the third generation, the way I look at it with my kids, who both seem very interested in wanting to take over, either way, they're going to lose it. If they don't want to do it and they want another career path, great, they're going to sell the business. But if they don't want to do it and get stuck in it, they're going to lose it anyways, because they're going to be unsuccessful in it. They're not going to have the passion and the drive to do it, and they're just going to let it go. So keeping the passion alive and loving what you do, and finding what my kids are going to be good at, and keeping it within the company. Like, if one of them is great at videos or website or whatever, well, we can use that. If one's great business mind, we can use that. So I was just very lucky to love what I do.
So I'm going to assume that you grew up working in the family business.
How right you are. So as a 11-year-old, I think I started making $2 an hour working for my brother. My brother had a gift shop right across the street where he airbrushed t-shirts. And so I worked the register, and, I was the salesperson pretty much. And it was great because, $2 an hour when you're 11, 12 years old and you work a whole summer. Oh my goodness, you could buy anything back then. Now $2 can't even buy you a bottle of water. But, back then, 35 years ago, that's a different story. And I started making candy right around when I was 14, 15. And I wouldn't say I really made the candy. My older brother helped my dad make the candy, and I cleaned up between each batch. So I was like the glorified mop hand that was basically there just to clean up their entire mess. But thankfully, my brother had no interest in the candy business whatsoever, and I really started to enjoy it. I liked the creativity of it, and I liked, I loved doing what I did. And fortunately, it worked out well, because I really don't know what else I could do.
So I'm going to assume again that your kids have grown up working in the business also.
Not they. So my oldest is 13 and the youngest is 10. And my oldest started last summer, and he was working with me summer, and he's going to work this summer as well. And I had to talk with him. I spoke to him. I go, Zeno. I too was the boss's son, and I know what it's like to come in and work with people who think you're going to think you're a spoiled brat. In my case, I know I was. Who think you're entitled and think you know everything, and no one's going to respect you until you earn their respect, and it's not going to be given to you. And I go, and at the end of the day, I go, it's your name on that building, bud. It's not my name. It's your name. It says Zeno's up on the big front, lights and signs and everything. So if you're not going to be the hardest worker here, if you're not going to care, why is anyone else going to care? And I was so proud of him because he just did whatever job. He was low man on the totem pole. He was making boxes. He was cleaning the floors. He was doing this, doing that. And anytime I thought he was enjoying it too much, I went and, gave him a little like hard time just to make him a little miserable. Because like we said earlier, doesn't matter what I do to him. If he loves it, and he's going to stick around.
So that's a really important point, not so much making his life miserable, but if you want your kids to be in your construction company or your family business, and you don't expose them to the business till they're done with college or high school, the chances of them actually wanting to join the business goes down so significantly that I would say it's very rare that would happen. On the other hand, I see families where the children grow up working in the business. Those are the ones that tend to get the intergenerational transfers done at some way. Sometimes it's done well, sometimes not so well. But the truth is, the kids have been exposed to the business, and often they want to join the business because they like it, they understand it. And when they look around at their other options, the family business is actually the path of least resistance.
My dad, being a Greek immigrant, he did the reverse of everybody else. Back 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, it was go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college. My mom wanted me to go to college, so I went to college. I graduated. But my dad's like, what are you going to go to college for? This is the best business that, you can have right here, like that. And so going to what you said about the kids, it is super important to get them involved, I believe, at an early age, because they're learning experiences. And I took some awesome business courses at the University of Florida, but I still learned 1,000 times more in business from my dad than I did any business class. And, when we went and we acquired these stores over there, I took my kids with me to sit in with like the talks and stuff like that, just for them to hear. That's a life experience. And they're going to remember when we bought these stores, when we had these meetings, when I'm talking to my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, who's my partner in the other stores, they listened to those talks of how we're going back and forth and what we're going to negotiate, what we want to do, what's worth it. Because I felt they're going to remember that way more than whatever they're going to learn in school that day. And ultimately, if they both want to be involved in the business, this is something that they're going to remember they're a part of. And so I try to involve them in any big decisions. And, when we bought these stores and how much we had to pay for them, my youngest son was like, we're going to pay that much money for these stores? And I go, yes. He's like, we've got that much money? I go, no, we don't have that much money. I was like, but I had to explain to them the whole process of borrowing and like, good credit, paying your bills and all that other stuff. And when you do that kind of stuff, people will give you money to go ahead and try to grow other stuff. And so, so far, those stores have been gangbusters and a really huge and great addition to our business.
So how did you get into the wholesale business? Because I find that really interesting. I get the stores, but I'm going to assume the wholesale business is a much bigger piece of the pie.
Well, the wholesale business I went into. So in 2004, Florida had 3 back-to-back-to-back hurricanes, and that was the first year, the second summer I had owned the store myself. And I was content to be a single store operator my entire life because that little boardwalk store does great. I'm a man of low means. my pickup truck is 7 years old. I don't really need nice things. I have a lovely wife and great kids, and I can have a good time and anywhere. And so we got hit with those hurricanes, and that's what made me realize, hey, you can't rely on this little store forever, because if it wipes out for whatever natural disaster, you need to have a backup plan. And so it was kind of like a two-prong approach. So I kind of, as a businessman, I've always gone with the path of least resistance. So if I open a store and it does well, great. I've had some failures in retail locations in the past, more of ego than anything. There's no losing, no, there's only learning. And I realize, as great as I think as my candy is, location, location, location when it comes to retail. Now, when it comes to manufacturing, I had this equipment that was sitting idle a lot of the time. And there was a lot of times of the year where, I was very busy 6 months of the year and very slow 6 months of the year. And I was just trying to find time and to keep myself occupied and maybe make a little money those 6 months. And by doing that, I just started reaching out to people saying, hey, would you like some taffy for your gift shop or ice cream for your stores? And people just all of a sudden kind of, took to it. And all of a sudden we were making more product for other people's businesses than we were for our own. And that's still the case to this day. But having said that, I never would have been successful or been able to stay in the manufacturing game as long as I have if it wasn't for that little boardwalk store in Daytona driving all the success, because that little store is what kept me afloat and all those, times of growth and purchasing new equipment and all that other stuff. So retail has always been where I've been most successful at. But in the long run, I believe the future is definitely going to be the manufacturing and wholesale.
Oh, hey, John, unfortunately, we are out of time.
It happens.
And I'm going to bet that there are people listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube or LinkedIn, and they're going to say, I'm hungry for some taffy. So if they want to get some, how would they go about doing that?
They can visit us on worldsmostfamoustaffy.com. Saltwater taffy was created in the Jersey Shore, but it was perfected on the world's most famous beach, Daytona Beach. So that's how we got the world's most famous taffy.com. And, we have a special buy 3 pounds, get a 4th pound free, and free shipping when you do that. So, we ship a lot of candy out, and it was so much fun, Josh, and I want to just thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. So, John, if somebody wanted to talk to you, would they just go to your website, and is there a form?
And just do the contact form, or I'm on LinkedIn as well, John Zeno Louizes, JohnZeno Louizes. And I'm on there every day doing some posts or videos of whatever we're making that day.
Cool. And, you've heard me say this 360 times or so. And you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say, go over to where you're listening to this podcast and please give us an honest review. And while you're giving us an honest review, you might as well just, subscribe, because we do this thing every week. We've been doing it for 7 years. I like it. Most people who listen to it like it. And it's a whole lot of fun. And frankly, you can listen to it on the way to or from work. So this is Josh Patrick. You're with John Louizes. You're at Cracking the Cashflow Code. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here really soon.